Major combat changes, a new incredible location, a rework to the particle lighting system, a brand new fresh ship HUD, new power management systems, and more. Star Citizen Alpha 3.14 for many ended up being a much bigger update than they thought just months ago. I've been covering major features of this patch over the last 3 months with feature deep dives, something I'll be doing for every update from now on, all of which you can find in the video description. But now, I feel it's finally time to answer whether this update is worth playing for the new players or those who are on the fence about the game. I'm Space Tomato, and I've got your Star Citizen quarterly update and whether it's worth playing. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. And thanks to my newest Patreon supporters, Wayne Rucker, Abra Desgupta, Machine, Perry, and Joe Johnson. As always, my first objective is to determine if the long-stated goal of allowing plenty of gameplay around hub worlds for players to stay local has been met in any way. This consists of a simple check on the current missions I get in the public tab of the mobiGlass at various random times throughout the patch PTU phase. While this will not always represent the amount of activity you have available to you at any given time, I believe it is a quick, simple baseline to compare against. As of right now, it appears there are no major changes in mission count around Hurston at different times. While new missions have been added for Crusader, the new planet, the overall amount of coverage has not increased. As always, we move straight on to locations in this update. This one is a big one. Crusader has been around for years as a static, uninteractive object. Now it stands as the final planet to be added to Star Citizen's first system. And as the second and third system are both well underway and likely less than 18 months from implementation, Crusader pushed the game's technology forward with the long-awaited addition of planetary volumetric clouds, a technology that will continue to improve and be scaled to use on all planets and atmospheric bodies. While there are some problems with the clouds in this first take, the team is hard at work to work on the second iteration, making things look much better. It has been a joy to view this planet from all angles. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in a game, and flying around the floating city in the sky is also incredibly fun. This floating city, Orison, is another traditional landing zone in the game, the fifth to be precise. However, Levski has been removed for the Nyx system coming up. As always, this landing zone is a distinct improvement to the others, though for interesting reasons. For one, you can land on and explore almost anything you can see, even the moving cargo transport ships. This and many other interactable elements throughout the city likely point towards future mission content all around the area, an exciting possibility. This is likely because the rest of the planet has no outposts or places to land. The methods of moving around the city are also better than others, with a beautiful ride in between platforms, and pretty clear instructions on where you'll be going. The extras you find around the city are amazing displays of what this place is all about, and the added perks of the manufactured products being an actual in-game ship leads to a closer connection to the city than somewhere like ArcCorp, which just works on ship components. Best of all, though, is just the feeling of being there. The draw distances are immense, the lighting is incredible, and whether it's daytime or nighttime, the mood is always set to what the composer describes as a never-ending sunset. And with the track that swells in the background as you leave for the spaceport, you might find yourself agreeing. While many have their own landing zones, there's no denying the achievement in bringing this to fruition. While it may just be a location now primed to be filled, there is something special about this one. All this being said, as of the time of this writing in the OpenPTU pre-patch phase, the performance here can be pretty bad. The amount of assets in the area combined with the first generation cloud tech combined with the insane lighting demands all leads to a less than pleasant experience at times. But if you're looking for a pleasant experience, well, we'll get to that at the end of the review. The power management system is a significant feature addition. It started out as something interesting and turned into a pretty big part of the patch along with underlying combat changes across every ship in the game. This system replaces the misunderstood functionality of the previous power triangle, with a new functionality which allows you to nudge extra power to any combination of 3 systems: shields, thrusters, and weapons. Each of these power bonuses come with a nice gameplay-based perk to give you an edge. Check out my recent video detailing these changes for more info. For basics, you'll see things like faster recharge limits and higher energy weapon counts, and these power boosts can be quickly swapped around, allowing this to be an on-the-fly second-to-second adjustment depending on whether you're attacking, defending, or evading. It's very similar to many other spaceflight sims, recently Star Wars Squadrons. The capacitor gameplay ends up becoming less intimidating than it sounds as you get used to it. While I'm not much of a combat pilot, I found it easier to understand my mistakes and teach myself to improve while using this system. That is, in addition to the Legacy instructional series. Strategy feels like a part of combat in this game for even casual players like me. No longer is it all about putting shields forward and clicking a pip until things go boom. Alongside some other changes we'll get to, power management has completely changed how combat will work in Star Citizen moving forward. But it's not all sunshine and space whales. Ballistics run out very quickly, and without rearming ships you'll need to get to a space station after every 1 or 2 dogfights. This can be remedied by mixing in some energy weapons, though for those who want to go purely with ballistics you're kinda out of luck for now, as nobody else can rearm you and you can't bring additional ammo for yourself. There is also no benefit added to ballistics when boosted, despite having a heat component built into every object. Thrusters also don't push harder and shields don't harden. There are some holes here and there in the functionality, but as an early implementation in a game that needs to undergo much more balancing and tweaking, I'm willing to bet some of this will be made to work better in the future. The bottom line is this feature has done quite a bit to change combat, and while a bit rough, is a welcome addition to players of all skill levels and a significant change to the game. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, the combat changes aren't over. A massive overhaul to every ship has been started. If you'd like to get more detail on these changes, you can find them on the Spectrum posts linked below, but here's the basic information. Fighter ships have been split up and categorized broadly into what role they play in a fleet, whether that be light fighters, interceptors, medium fighters, or heavy fighters. Boost has also replaced afterburners, again, with a rework to offer more brief advantages and discourage constant use. It also now handles heat differently, as a long-term effect rather than short. Shields have been overhauled with small ships maintaining the single shield face like bubble shields of before 3.0, in order to ease the experience and alleviate some of that responsibility for somebody who might be focusing on handling everything else. While larger shields have undergone major changes in a year-long focus on improving the experience, which started with the signed distance field technology and will move on to shield emitters later in the year. On the weapons side of things, the story is the same. Massive changes with huge amounts of balance in tow. Energy weapons have now been given proper identities, use cases, and pros and cons. And turrets have been given a significant boost as they rely on their own power supply, increasing the benefits of those who choose to fly multi-crew. All of these changes have created a huge rebalancing act, creating a very long testing cycle for 3.14. But the changes they bring will allow players to begin finally dialing in their playstyle and their long-term plans in terms of ship selection. This marks another significant change to the game. Combat tuning has finally begun, just in time to be joined by multi-crew. one of the main draws to Star Citizen, and a major component of the game's philosophy. For more on why multi-crew is so important, check out my recent video discussing the importance of ship interiors in Star Citizen. It'll be down in the video description. With many systems coming into place, multi-crew has more and more supporting features coming online. In 3.14, we're being formally introduced to Operator Mode. Operator Mode going forward will be used to define the different ship roles that your fellow crewmates will have. This includes but is not limited to scanning, mining, quantum, and docking mode. These modes will feature different layouts, tools, and functionality, and will have to be switched between in order to be used. They represent the different possibilities a player can find depending on their career path. Functionally, they will be maintained by their own teams, using building blocks to work independently of the thinly spread UI team. Not only did 3.14 give this feature a defined explanation, it also created a new role for us, Missile Operator Mode. In this mode, players can target and fire upon enemy vessels, turrets, or even their own missiles. And yes, this does mean you'll have to switch to missiles whenever you'd like to use them, but that's not so uncommon in flight sims. This change is a major one in the long run, and changes up the combat game a bit, but it is not widely reaching enough to affect the majority of players. While not being a huge change for the patch, it is a fundamental change for the game. The Missile Operator Mode fits into 3.14 nicely with the Missile Rework that has been anticipated for years. Yeah, another one of those features. While this is a move for missiles to the new flight system that ships use, I also believe this is the transition for missiles to the Item 2.0 system, which was started around 2017, though this has not been confirmed. The new missile system is fairly lightweight, visually interesting, and audibly a joy. It also allows for missile selection and monitoring in a much easier to understand fashion. But keep in mind, these missiles will not be replenished by claiming your ship, much like the countermeasures used to defend against them. While the missile system isn't a massive deal for most players, it is tightening up a part of the game that has been plagued with problems for a while, and aims to improve the experience for players across the board. It doesn't affect most players, but definitely holds its own as a good supporting change. Now on to some more UI-focused features. While almost everything has had UI additions, the new HUD update is almost entirely UI. I talk about the path to this new HUD from version 1 back in 2014 all the way up until now, in my most recent video, which is also down in the video description. The biggest change to the HUD that is immediately noticeable is the compass, which will help you understand your heading based on your current location on the planet and the solar plane. The more sneaky but equally as useful HUD changes are these little fellas. The G-force indicator and thrust vector indicator tell you both your thrust and G heading, so you can get a sense of where your ship is going and what it is currently attempting to do at a glance. It'll take some practice and some time to get used to, but they are very useful once you learn how to use them. Combined with the altimeter, compass, and floating thrust vector indicator, you now have full awareness of what your ship is doing at any time. Other additions include better brightening systems, new animations, and overall better polish, though there are some major issues still. Canopy damping would help a lot when it comes to the ongoing brightness issues. The current speed and speed limiter indicators are just bad in my opinion. The velocity bar color is not only very eye-catching, but also closely resembles the previous speed indicator from 3.13. Now, however, it's used to indicate the full meter itself, with a square and arrow representing the limiter and speed. This isn't easy to use in the heat of combat from the corner of your eye, and I really hope it is changed. With plenty of improvements currently ongoing for the in-game HUD, this looks like a great first step towards the final project, and a major change for the game overall. It also plays closely with the new radar scanning and ping system, another feature I covered early in the quarter. This feature has proven to be incredibly wide-reaching, and like many of these other features, is a first step towards the finalized feature set. This new version of pinging and scanning not only looks better, it also functions better, with systemically generated emissions levels that you can detect at dynamic distances, depending on what your target is doing. This pushes forth the beginning of ship-based stealth gameplay, and marks the beginning of a stronger direction for exploration gameplay. The effect of the ping itself is also very nice, based on a new shader known as Ping CIG, which allows effects to trigger upon contact. The functionality of this new system is simple, but quite interesting. Your radar does a great job of passively detecting contacts at high range, allowing you to scan visible targets. But some targets might fall under your detection threshold or out of range. A ping gives you the ability to light those targets up and paint them with a signal that then allows you to scan them. While this is working better for ships than minables, which are the two main objects you can scan for right now, the underlying system and direction are there, and this improved version of ship scanning combined with deep space probing scheduled for next year and the FPS radar scanning and ping gameplay scheduled for October are both saying some very exciting things for exploration gameplay. It's not particularly flashy or interesting, but these changes are pretty important for several different career paths. The loss system is one that partially ties into a subject I can't wait to cover later: bounty hunting. However, in this update, we saw the addition of the ability to surrender to security. A stepping stone, but not a major feature. That being said, the option of powering down and coming to a halt to avoid getting blown up and losing everything is a nice detail to have. Especially with persistent inventories becoming a thing shortly, losing all your stuff will be a pain. This feature will help a lot in avoiding unnecessary battles, and will likely play into your reputation hit when dealing with authorities. Keep in mind, with security networks being worked into the game, what you do will follow you everywhere you go in official jurisdictions. This is a small addition, but a useful one in the long term. With 3.14, we are also seeing the return of the first dynamic event, Xenothreat, along with a new event, the Ninetales Lockdown. Both of these events will use the quantum backend system to simulate a true-to-fiction series of events that will react to players' actions against NPCs and each other. While these events are a great chance for players to get into the game for something different, they also act as a great testing bed for the system that will be running multiple events that are systematically triggered all across the game in the future. In addition to these two events, there are others we know about that have been stated to be coming up this year, so keep an eye out for more. I won't spoil any of these events for you now, but if you subscribe to the channel, I'll make sure to let you know when they are happening. This update brought us just one variant of a ship, possibly due to the extensive work on the flight model and overall ship balancing, but also possibly not. This ship is a cargo hauling variant of the original Kickstarter ship, the Constellation. It is one of the last ships from the early years of development that needs to be complete, and considering the current state of cargo hauling for the majority of routes, it acts as a bit of a checkmark at the moment. This will be a fantastic ship for small to mid-sized cargo haulers as the industry improves, but does lack a bit of the excitement that comes with a ship of new chassis or function. Some of the smaller additions in this patch are worth mentioning here, though of course my review won't cover every single detail in the update. New thruster wind volumes are now realistically modeled when near surfaces, so the various thrusters on your ship will create force in the correct direction for the amount of thrust, and will blow off debris based on what's below you. Some new very cool looking armor has been added to the game, a big deal considering not much standard utilitarian armor has been produced. This armor comes with a backpack, likely timed to coincide with physical inventories that will require the use of backpacks much more, scheduled for October. Thruster effects have been buffed from a distance, adding to the visual spectacle of one or multiple ships flying off in the distance. Wind volumes now seem to be able to affect certain objects of a specific profile, blowing them around in beautiful ways. This will be further added to items all over the game, though initially has been implemented in Orison. A new particle lighting system has been implemented into the game. This will allow a much better quality of lighting for particles, but more importantly, will allow the creation of effects in a more consistent way without worrying that different environment lighting will cause the effects to not work as well. For example, the same effect in a darkly lit room versus a brightly lit moonlit area in space. Sometimes referred to as the pie in the sky patch, 3.14 was actually still more ground floor foundation. But these types of patches have changed. They are no longer mainly backend, they are very much in your face. You may have seen my video earlier this year that talks about the 4th phase of Star Citizen, and how it's currently undergoing a change in deliverable content. I think this patch is the clearest sign of that so far. UI, combat, and ship classification all took a big step forward, with clear preparations for further improvements such as multi-crew, bounty hunting, and exploration gameplay, all making moves to be major parts of the game. The combat changes, HUD update, ship classifications, missile system, scanning rework, and power management update are all great, supported by smaller useful features. While there is no new addition of gameplay that many are waiting for, what's there is quite juicy. That being said, there is still a distinct lack of missions both in number and variety, requiring players to constantly transit back and forth between planetary zones. The desync, which causes a multitude of problems in PvP and PvE scenarios, is almost game-breaking in certain instances. Despite the quality of life and foundational changes we are seeing, professions like repair, refuel, and salvage are still nowhere to be seen. And with so many assets sitting on single-server instances, frame rates can really suffer in some areas. At the end of the day, if you're a big fan of the genre and see no problem with these issues, jump in. The game is still fun, and you can use the link in the video description to get 5,000 extra UEs when you make your account. While the game is still riddled with glitches at this stage in alpha, as you may notice, many of the changes coming to the game are looking to remedy long-standing problems. But if you're hesitant and don't know if it is right for you, it probably isn't. I would suggest continuing to follow along with my weekly content to get a better sense of when the time is right. And I would give this same advice to casual players. So, to review, casual players should hold off for this patch. Those on the fence should wait for the Free Fly event likely coming in November. And the regular players and people who are just chilling with the game already, well, you should definitely hop in and enjoy these changes. It did change the game quite a bit. And for anybody who's watching, if you'd like to go one step further, you can also support this content on Patreon down below. I hope this review brought you some insight on the current state of Star Citizen, and I hope you'll subscribe to get more of the sweet, sweet goods. Also, don't forget to go back and find the secret code for my giveaway, which is down in the video description. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you later. Thanks to my top supporters TK Valiant 15, The Alpaca, Holston Coop, The Huntress, Dasek, Guilty Conscious, Extreme Tuber 7, El Gordo, Jarzi, Niku, Jin, and Bilal Eliasem.